Good day, everybody. Today we're going to do a retro review of a movie that took place in 1980. Get my notes real quick. 1987, I believe.
Nobody knows.
Yeah. 1987. It's House 2, the second story. You see what they did there? The second story, because you got first story, second story, third story.
I'm gonna slap you.
Anyways, if you've seen House 1, House 2 is completely different than House 1. He's never seen House 1. House 1 is like about a guy who's like a Vietnam veteran, and he kind of has PTSD in that one. I vaguely remember it. I saw it about 20-some years ago, so... but that was basically it. This one, and it was a little darker. This one is, while it's dark, it's like a horror comedy. And so we're about to show you a clip from the movie, just to get a little taste of what it's about. And this clip is probably the scariest moment of the movie, would you say?
I honestly didn't think any of it was scary.
Okay, well, out of the scariness of the movie, would you say this is probably the scariest part?
No, I was more like, oh, you're screwed kind of part for me. Okay. I was like, oh, here he comes!
Right, so it's, yeah.
Dinner is served!
So this is a little...
It is a dead guy who wants to kill people.
Right, so this is a little taste of probably the scariest part, where the villain confronts the heroes and...
the most useless grandpa.
So, we hope you enjoy this. It'll be about a minute long.
For their special contribution to the meal. And to say that I guess I think of all of you as well, my family now.
That was well put, son. Now let's eat. Low down, Weasel. I've been waiting for you. Long time, partner. Sorry. He's mine. I knew you'd catch up with me sooner or later.
Alright, so... Okay, so that was the part where we see the villain coming up through the table. He didn't look like he would be very delicious to eat.
He looked rather, oh.
Yes,
he looked rather spoiled.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
He did spoil. So, before we get into like the meat and the potatoes of this...
Okay, that's enough with the dinner puns!
Yeah, so...
I should have said that.
No pun intended. Alright, anyway, so for you Bill Maher fans... House 2 does have Bill Maher in it. He is a side character. He has about 5 or 10 minutes in the movie. He kind of steals the hero's girlfriend. The girl that you see in this movie was a virgin who was about to get sacrificed, and they kind of fall in love, I guess, in the end.
I don't even know.
Something, but they're whatever. So House 2, you want to explain what House 2 is without any spoilers at this point?
A bunch of people fighting over a necromantic skull.
Basically, it's kind of like Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull.
Except on steroids.
Yeah, so, okay, maybe the B-movie part. But it happened about 30 years before that movie.
I just wouldn't put the skull back on where it's supposed to be.
Right. So the basic plot of the movie is that you have this guy and his great grandpa. He found his crystal skull that can extend your life, and him and his partner get in a disagreement, and his partner ends up, at the beginning of the movie we see this, he kills his parents, and then he inherits the house that they live in, and it's basically a house of adventures, because you go to different dimensions, and the whole time they're just trying to keep the skull from the villain.
And trying to keep their grandpa from being knocked out.
Right, and the grandpa.
Because he gets knocked out about 3 different times.
Yeah, the grandpa is like very incompetent.
He's the most useless character I have ever seen in a movie. Like, I don't care if he's like 1,000 years old. He's so useless.
Every time he's about to do something,
Somebody knocks him out.
Somebody knocks him out. He gets shot. He gets taken out of the action.
Doesn't matter.
But this is like it's not a masterpiece, but it is. It's pretty good. I enjoyed it as a kid. I enjoyed it this time. It's not. The acting's pretty good, I would say.
Yeah.
I like his
plot line is rather
Yeah,
right. I feel like it's
right.
rather just right. I feel like honestly the plot feels like something I made up because
Yeah.
you know my one of those first stories I tried to write, like
Right.
the main characters would go somewhere, something would happen, they'd have to leave, they go somewhere else.
Right.
That's not what happened there. They just have to leave again. That was what it reminded me of. I'm like, that seems so much like what I did.
Right. And I also forgot to say, just got a great performance from John Matzenberger. Is that how you pronounce his name? He's the guy who's in all of the like Toy Story, Cars.
Oh, that guy was
Yeah,
great.
yeah. He's in it. He plays an electrician.
I was like, who is this guy?
And you know, he makes an appearance. He is a electrician, aka also he's a adventurer.
Okay, so like we didn't know that he was an adventurer. Well, at least I didn't. And so I was watching this, and he comes up. He's like, you got a little something in your wall,
Yeah.
and there's like a whole
John Ratzenberger's his name.
Yeah, he's like, there's a whole. I feel it seems like you have another world in this wall,
Another
and they're just
dimension.
like, there's like, oh. So they walk in. He pulls a sword out of his freaking briefcase. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Well, and then he knows how to go through mazes pretty well. I'm like, who is this guy? And he's
Yeah.
like, oh, this is the first run through I've done. I'm like, where have you been?
Yep.
What
Hey,
kind of people hire you?
He's like, hey, if that's a life of an electrician, that sounds like a great job, right?
Yeah, I'm just like, I was like, what kind of people hire you? Indiana Jones?
Right. So yeah. So at the end, he hands the card. If you need help with electricity or anything else, here's my card.
Yeah, and it turns out he was an electrician and
Yeah,
an adventurer.
sure.
I'm like, well, that makes a little bit more sense. But
Right.
what?
Yeah. So he puts in a great performance, and really everybody does. I kind of like
Yeah,
his
he,
friend.
he was like, oh, this light bulb seems pretty well made. Boom! He breaks it with his screwdriver's handle. He's like, must have been foreign made.
before they made him good.
No,
yeah.
it must have been foreign made.
Oh, foreign made. Yeah.
That's what he said. And
Yeah,
then
that's what
he
he said.
just he'd break everything
Right.
on his way in there. I'm like, well, he obviously isn't hired to as a repairman.
Right. And then, so when you got the special effects, you could clearly tell, like, there's a centipede puppy, centipede dog, caterpillar dog.
Is it called a catapuppy?
Yeah, probably. I guess so. But you could clearly tell that's somebody's hand is in there and sometimes talking for it. So, and then the bird. So, I mean, it's just the 80s, so it's not going to have a CGI, but for
I
that
was
time
like-
period, I think they were pretty good made. Pretty decent.
Pretty good made.
Pretty good made. It was
Go back to
decent.
English class!
No. I can talk as I want because I am not in school anymore.
You wanted to be a history teacher, though.
I did, but I'm not, so I can talk however I would like.
That's right.
All right, so I would recommend this with caution, I would say, just because it is a B-ish movie.
I don't even know what that means. Everybody says it. It's like, I'm like, does it mean something bad? Does it mean something cheesy? I don't know what it means.
Cheaply made.
Cheaply made.
Yeah.
What does B movie stand for?
You got your A movies, which are like the really good movies that go into the theaters.
Oh.
They
I
got
thought every time
the top.
somebody...
They got the top-notch equipment,
Okay,
actors,
so I was
and then
like-
you got your B movies are kind of like the
Yeah.
level below.
So, like, when everybody would say B movie, I'm like, B movie? Like, referring to that insect movie, the B movie? And I was like, what? Why is
No.
everyone saying stuff about that?
No.
I always thought about BEE and not actually, like, the grade letter B.
No, you get the A movies where you get like the Hollywood, the top execs pour as much money as they can into it. These are like, a lot of them are probably independently made, where the director, the producers, they're
Just
funding
got
it
out
with
of
their own
bed
money.
and was like, oh, I feel like...
no. A lot of good actors and directors start that way. It's like, you know, when you're young, you gotta grow up the progression. Sometimes just when you get right
Does
out
that
of college,
mean-
you don't get like a top.
Does that mean if I ever finish my book, I will be able to publish it and become top-notch writer?
Probably. If
Probably
it's good,
not.
If it's good. So what did you? Do you like it?
It was pretty good.
Pretty good.
And you know, it's really funny because like people are always like, some people are like 80s movies were like real horror movies or something like that, and this was like supposed to be like somewhat of a horror movie. I'm like, this isn't scary. Like, I like never watch horror. I don't really watch horror movies unless you count The Village as a horror movie. But that wasn't really scary either. But like, so it wasn't scary at all. I mean, I don't know, with today's day and age and the resilient youth that we have, because, you know, why not? I feel like they might be able to watch it. No one over the age of probably 9, because that's kind of when that's kind of when kids start being able to distinguish reality from fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, I think it's
it'd be-
PG-13.
like, it was a pretty good movie.
Mm-hmm. Pretty good for what it is. I think you enjoy it, and you think they'll enjoy it too. It sounds like. Like I said, I recommend with caution if you're expecting something like a
horror.
top-notch movie.
You're expecting like a top-notch horror movie, slasher movie, or whatever the heck you're
Yeah.
into, then you're probably not gonna like the movie because your expectations will not be met. But if you're expecting a movie that's somewhat comedic, but also can have like thriller and all that kind of stuff, you'll probably not be disappointed.
It's kind of like the same as Evil Dead: Army of Darkness for those who've probably watched that, but
I watched-
not as good as Army of Darkness.
I watched Army of Darkness in my. Okay, so I was standing outside my room, and I watched it.
You watched Army-
I watched it from standing in my room,
Uh-huh.
and Mom was like, "What are you doing?" I'm
Yeah,
like, don't look over here.
Army
You're
of
totally
Darkness.
not watching the movie. I'm not supposed to be.
Right. So we hope you enjoyed this. Have a great day, and
Bye.
bye.